Prior to Jesse giving birth to a stunning daughter, the atmosphere in Jesse and David's home was rather ordinary. Since then, their family dog Benji has drastically changed the situation. When they were apart, their daughter continued to bark because Benji wouldn't let her sleep alone. David experienced the shock of his life when he discovered what was happening. He called the police right away, and every officer on duty arrived. We will find out the entire story together, so make sure to subscribe to our channel and to always stay tuned for more stories. A couple was waiting to have a child since forever, and it all started when Jessie became pregnant. However, something about their dog Benji was bothering them both. They were unsure of how she would respond to the infant, when Benji began constantly barking at her belly and started acting really strangely and didn't seem to be excited about the pregnancy. Jessie became extremely terrified by this bizarre attitude. They were unable to identify what was causing this behavior, and before having to decide whether to prioritize the baby or the dog, Jessie asked David to take Benji to the vet to make sure that there was absolutely nothing wrong with him. When Jessie heard the news from David, she broke down in tears. She had the impression that something was wrong with the infant, and Benji had undoubtedly observed it as well. Throughout the pregnancy, she had been assisting around the house. The doctor performed a number of complex medical tests. There was nothing wrong with Jessie or the unborn child, and Jessie, however, did not want to have to decide between the dog and her child. In the initial weeks, everything looked to be going smoothly. Jessie and David both stayed at home to take care of their young daughter. Benji seems to have relaxed. However, Anne called them as soon as they got to work with some worrying news. She informed Jessie that Benji wouldn't let Lily go to bed alone herself. Benji refused to depart from her side. Then one day Anne called in panic. She had separated Benji and Lily and was attacked by Benji when she went back downstairs. Benji was certainly too protective. David returned to the vet with heavy heart, and they made the decision to observe Benji and Lily together for a bit. Finally, he came to the conclusion that Benji only acted really oddly when Anne was there. When Mom was not present, Benji was at peace. So Jessie had a brilliant thought. She instructed David to put up some cameras all throughout the house to monitor Benji and Lily. This would undoubtedly get more responses. Regarding David's decision to put cameras in the home, Anne appeared to be hesitant. She inquired about its necessity and the root of the problem. David considered this to be highly suspicious. She started asking all of these questions at a time when he already didn't trust her. Despite the fact that they were best friends, David had to accomplish this without Jessie's knowledge. David yelled at Anne after becoming extremely enraged. Indignant, Anne fired out at David because since Jessie became pregnant, that silly dog has been acting in this way even though she was not even up during the night. Jessie was furious with David for confronting Anne in this manner because she couldn't believe he was saying her best friend was a threat to Lily. At that very moment, David recognized that Anne had uttered something that would provide him with all the solutions he required. The same thing happened at night with Benji. He had never gone through the night footage, but he will now without a doubt. When David opened the software, he gasped when he saw that the recordings were deleted from the hard drive every single night. There was unquestionably a very unusual situation going on here, but what? He made the decision to create a unique encrypted backup for the night recordings each day. David was now certain that he would find the cause of this. It's likely that Benji had observed something. David was excited to see the tape the very next day, and he spotted something entering via the window in the unsettling video of the baby's chamber. David was in utter amazement and could feel his heart racing. He was even more shocked after watching more of the video. He had to call the cops right away before things got out of hand. What David had observed was described. He was informed that all available officers would be dispatched right away to his home. However, David was aware that his recent discovery was significant, and within minutes of calling Jessie to come home, David heard sirens outside his home. The initial officers had shown up. When Jessie got home as well, she demanded an explanation and cried out in shock when David showed her the video. When the cops entered the room while Benji and Lily were immediately rushed to the wall and began barking at it. Benji appeared as though he wanted to share something with the police, so they demolished the wall with a sledgehammer. Without even consulting David or Jessie, they tore down the wall and a secret compartment was present. What exactly was going on? They immediately removed everything from the area, including a safe. There was no such thing as Anne, and she was never either registered somewhere or searchable in a database. Whoever it was, she had made up this person her entire life. Jessie sobbed because she had known her best friend for more than 10 years. She couldn't understand what was happening. Inside the safe, a ton of cash, jewels, papers, and passports were discovered. When the authorities opened one of the passports, they noticed the person. They discovered Anne's concealed stash. When the police captain visited Jessie, he informed them that they were dealing with Elizabeth Holmes, a foreign agent. David is the director of the National Security Company, which is how she got into Jessie and David's lives. He has complete access to the National Security Network. They eventually succeeded in stopping Elizabeth as she attempted to flee the country. She was not going to get caught because she had seen the police presence at the residence. But as soon as she did, she came clean and Benji averted disaster. Growing up, Benji and Lily were best friends. Lily eventually heard her parents tell her the whole tale. Since then, Benji and she have been inseparable, and he has never stopped protecting Lily. And David and Jessie made an effort to be more selective in who they allowed into their home.